Rereading this book, How to Be a Movie Star, Elizabeth Taylor in Hollywood, gave me an idea for a story that I wanted to tell you. I was born in a small town and I grew up in an even smaller one. With a total of 2 stoplights between them, neither felt as interesting as the places that I saw on television and in the movies. So I did what people do. I made do, imagining a world bigger than my own. Instinctively, I knew what later came to be called the 3 C's: choices, chances, and changes. I set up how I wanted to be perceived by manipulating the way others saw me. In the sunburst 70s, I wore all black. My superheroes were William S. Burroughs and Andy Warhol, not Spider-Man and Wolverine, the superheroes that my friends all read about. I wanted to be taken seriously, to stand out from the crowd, to live the large life that I saw on TV and at the movie theaters. Now, I'm willing to admit, in hindsight, my attempt at becoming a teenage beatnik was probably a bit much, although to my credit, I stopped short of wearing a beret and reciting revolutionary poetry in public, but I did learn a great deal from my personality shakeup. I discovered changing perception works best when it's authentic and simple. The modifications that stuck during my social experiment were the traits that amplified my personality, not altered it unrecognizably. I learned how to define myself, to embrace my personal style while putting forth the image of how I wanted to be seen. Many years later, I got a lesson in creating perception from one of the best to ever practice the art of reinvention. That's why this book reminded me of this story. At the 2003 Cannes Film Festival, I was invited to join the scrum on the red carpet for a special Cinema Against AIDS benefit gala. It was a screening of Elizabeth Taylor's 1956 film Giant. Now, who would want to talk to a film legend who was a dame years before the Queen of England officially gave her the title? So we lined up at 4 p.m., crammed into small fenced-in areas on the left side of the red carpet. The plan was that Elizabeth would walk up one side, stopping every few feet and chatting, before continuing down the other. We're told that everyone should get a chance to grab an interview or at least a soundbite from her. But we're told she will be quite late. The film was scheduled to start at 6 p.m. and we're told not to expect her until at least 5:30 or maybe 5:45. At 4:30, a publicist, mindful that we're literally stacked on top of one another like some kind of human Jenga game in the blistering heat, suggested that we leave for an hour or so and find some shade. Now, I know that these things never go as planned, and I was fairly convinced that we wouldn't get any meaningful time with Taylor, but as reporters fled the red carpet, I decided to wait in the blazing sun on the off chance that we could get a minute or two with her. Then, at 5:05, a black limo pulls up, and Liz, then age 72, got out to a mostly empty red carpet. She's on time. People are stunned. She was never on time for anything. I later hear that her publicist fibbed to her, telling her that the event was at 2 p.m. By giving her a midday call time, they figured they could get her to the red carpet on time. In her mind, she was arriving on movie star time, fashionably late by about 3 hours. She was wearing Fort Knox, enough jewels to pay the debt of several small countries, but she looked quite frail. Escorted by 2 men, one on each arm, who actually seemed to be carrying her along, she was ushered along to the press. Still, there was a spark there. When someone asked her to speak up, she shrieked at him with a howl that sounded like a 500-pound Siamese cat on a hot tin roof. She stopped at the reporter next to me. That probably means I won't get her, I thought, as I'm sure they'll try and move her as quickly as they can through the sparsely attended line. But no, she stopped in front of me, staring at me with those famous violet eyes. I asked one question, and then another, and then another, and another after that. I actually get her attention for a few minutes, and I'm thinking I am the king of the Cannes Film Festival. When I spoke to Liz Taylor, she hadn't made a movie in almost 10 years, and her last major role was decades earlier. Now, I guess that many of the younger reporters had never even seen her on the big screen, maybe on DVD or on a late movie rerun, but Taylor, in front of me, was every inch the movie star she worked that red carpet. Why? Well, because perception set the tone. Even though she wasn't currently a practicing movie star, her legend, coupled with the trademarks of old-school Hollywood, like her late entrance, the jewels and the gown and the limousine, made us perceive her as a movie star. That moment was a lesson in the magic of perception, that illusion, that combination of what we see versus how we see it. Now, of course, movie stars traffic in the art of illusion, but that doesn't mean we can't apply the positive aspects of how perceptions can affect our daily lives into our lives. Don't dream it, be it. I know it sounds trite, but perception is a crucial flavoring in the recipe of success. Talent and luck are key elements, but can often be difficult to manipulate to one's benefit. How people perceive you is one element that you have complete control over. Decide how you want to define yourself with personal style, your vibe, and confidence. When I was a waiter, for instance, working on restaurant patios in the stifling summer heat, I would always make sure that I was wearing pressed black pants, a crisp white shirt, and a tie, while my co-workers dressed for the weather in shorts and t-shirts. Why did I do that? Perception. Looking professional was my way of making a first impression that I hoped would later translate into bigger tips and some modicum of respect while I was working. Whatever the reason you decide to play with perception, it can be a powerful tool. Life, whether you are a movie star, a teenage kid in a small town, or a waiter just trying to make a buck, is about how we interpret the people around us and in turn, how others interpret us. Taylor understood this. And despite once saying, "I don't like my voice, I don't like the way I look, I don't like the way I move, I don't like the way I act," she owned how people saw her, and that was a key element of her enduring success.